Just a moment. Okay, I'm just waiting for, it looks like it on my end, and I'm just waiting for someone from the outside to confirm. Okay, we're live and streaming.
All right, thank you so much. All right, this is the Clean Energy Alliance Board of Directors meeting for August 26th, 2021 at 2 p.m. and we're virtually in the city of Solana Beach. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Member Drucker.
You're muted.
Here.
Vice Chair Patel.
Here.
Chair Becker.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the flag salute, and I will go ahead and lead it today. You'll all join me. We'll wait for the signal.
Are you not seeing it?
No.
Try again.
It's okay. We'll just go ahead and start. Thank you, though. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Any board comments or announcements today? Seeing none, we do have a presentation from SDG&E, and they're both on the line here. So I will turn this over to our CEO to introduce it.
Thank you, Chair Becker. Yes, I'm pleased to have introduce Mr. Joe Britton and also Mr. Joe Gabaldon from San Diego Gas and Electric. They'll be doing a presentation on their Flex Alert program, and this was an item requested by Board Member Drucker that he received. The board received information. We also have with us Sabrina Butler from SDG&E. So with that, I know they have a presentation, and let me make sure that I have enabled others to be able to present here. And I think you should be able to present. So I don't know which Joe would like to start off.
Joe, we can't hear you, Joe. Gabaldon.
Can you see my
Here we go.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Becker and members of the board. My name is Joe Baldwin. I'm the Public Affairs Manager for the North Coast cities. That includes Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas, Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Joe Britton. He's also a liaison to other parts of the community and as well works on our Emergency Operations Center, really driving our resources to respond to any sort of emergency. So it's got quite a bit of background there. And of course, if we don't know it, Sabrina most likely will. But in any case, really pleased to be here. We appreciate the time you have today. What we wanted to do was to provide information about Flex Alerts, who's driving it, what factors go into making those decisions, and how does SDG&E not only communicate, but more importantly, out in advance, what are we doing to make the grid more resilient and prepare as best we can, communicating with our customers in terms of conservation. So please feel free to stop us at any point. Okay, so the Kaiso was established in 1998 and as the state was restructuring its energy marketplace.
Hi.
They also manage the flow of electricity in the grid here, and they operate.
I think we may have lost this.
I'm sorry, am I breaking up?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm going to try to fix that here. Joe, if I can't do that, go ahead and take over if you don't mind until I can correct things. The Kaiso is responsible for the grid. They manage it on a 24/7 basis. They're led by a 5-member board of directors that's appointed by the governor of the state, and they have oversight by FERC. Currently, they have over 30 million customers in the state. And of course, because the electric grid is so interconnected with the rest of the California, whatever happens here in the region or in other parts of the state can and will affect SDG&E's territory. So what is a Flex Alert? It is a request from Kaiso to all providers in anticipation of energy supply shortages. Some of the factors that likely could affect demand is humidity, heat, other unplanned power plant outages with the large facilities, maybe even hydro in other parts of the state. Fires could also threaten major transmission corridors and facilities. And so that also is a risk at times. But the Flex Alerts also are a big piece as they start to drive customer communication activities. There is not only a statewide marketing effort to prepare folks and encourage conservation, but we also have a summer readiness campaign that will be coming up in the near future to encourage conservation as well. And most important, folks can sign up for any sort of notifications, so you can catch it on the road, have the alerts go to your cell phone, whatever you might be. Provides a great source of information. I'll turn it over now to Joe Britton, my colleague.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Joe. So it's important to note that the electric transmission system in our region is interconnected with the rest of California's power grid. So as Joe mentioned, what happens elsewhere in California and really throughout the West can impact electric service right here in San Diego County and vice versa. So one of the challenges grid operators face every evening is that solar production drops off at sunset and energy demand really spikes, and that coupled with any emergency situation on the grid can stress the grid. So that's the purpose of the Flex Alerts. Flex Alerts are typically issued by Kaiso a day before it is needed, typically right around 3 p.m. They'll send out a notification for the day before. And this is really so customers can begin to prepare and also take steps to conserve energy. However, grid emergencies can happen suddenly and prompting the Kaiso to request utilities to implement curtailment with little or no advance notice. So if the Kaiso issues a reserve deficiency alert, SDG&E will activate its Emergency Operations Center and start notifying potentially impacted jurisdictions, the CCAs, as well as our customers. If a curtailment order is implemented, Kaiso will also, they'll notify the utilities to begin shedding load. Once an order is given, we have 10 minutes to begin curtailment. So the Kaiso informs us with very little notice that the grid is stressed and requires us to shed electricity throughout the state. And so we have 10 minutes to comply with that order. In that instance, SDG&E would then begin 1 hour rolling power outages to predetermined blocks of customers. The number of customers impacted is really determined by how much load we have been asked to shed by the Kaiso. So it depends on what they're seeing in the demand and supply on the electric grid at that time. So the next slide highlights the Kaiso notification process in greater detail. Can you advance the slide, Joe? Oh, there we go. If a reserve deficiency alert is issued, SDG&E will begin notifying cities, the county, tribal partners, state emergency officials, and the CCAs. These notices include information on grid conditions, the communities potentially impacted, as well as the number of customers. Notices also include contact information for SDG&E's emergency management team. And customers are also noticed via our emergency notification system. Additional notices are provided in the event that we've been asked to curtail electricity, as well as when power has been restored, and then again when the emergency has passed. So again, it's really important to note that it's possible that the Kaiso could order the utilities to shed load immediately if the grid is stressed. And that's regardless of whether an alert or warning was issued. So sometimes we're not going to get advance notice that there's emergency on the grid and that we need to start shedding power. In that event, we'd initiate notifications as soon as possible. So our priority is to curtail the energy we've been requested and do so safely, and then begin our notification process. Ideally, we've gotten heads up a day before that this is a potential, and you'd start receiving notifications in advance. So I'll turn it back to Joe. Can't hear you, Joe.
Joe, you're still muted.
Okay.
Got it.
This is our last slide, and we can certainly get to plenty of questions you might have. So the grid resiliency is really, what are we doing on our side to be better prepared, to make sure that all the resources that we can get to are activated, on the ready. And so a lot of that has to do with grid reliability and whether we're encouraging or requiring our contractors who are providing power to clean their facilities, get them to tip-top shape, run their annual maintenance activities. It's an important part of it. We're also procuring additional resources or reserves to have them on the ready. I think we've procured about 100 megawatts going into this event or into this season. In addition, we're doing improvements in our facilities to generate additional capacity as well. We also have batteries that we're working to include in the area. Some are under construction, some have already been completed. So again, it is an important piece on the infrastructure side where we can do our preparedness. The other elements really talk about what we can do with our customers. We have demand response customers that really provide incentives, not only for folks to conserve, but more importantly, for them to control their power before and during an event. And it's incenting them in a way that, if they're able to reduce their loads to agreed upon levels, they also are financially incented to do that. So there's a great program. It's available on the residential and commercial side. We have a website, sdg.com/dr. We're excited in terms of our outreach campaigns. We have a summer campaign that's going to reinforce the savings between or conservation between 4 to 9. Providing energy savings tips. It is something that we have many programs and we're always working to get the word out about those events. We attend many community events with our outreach team, maybe a little bit less lately. We were really excited as they started up again, but of course, we're not taking any new events until we get through this particular variant here. Lastly, my screen is, there we go. Again, it is in partnership. It's a partnership with the policymakers, it's a partnership with regulatory agencies and our customers. And we're always encouraging folks to sign up for the alerts, having folks at the ready to adjust their thermostat, turning off unnecessary lights, even using fans. So lots of opportunities for folks to command or to adjust their demand during these events, and clearly notice and is going to be a big part of that. I'll hold now and see if there are any questions for either Joe or me.
All right, thank you so much. And I see you using your fan right there. I can see it in the background. I have a couple questions. So we all know that we're having this extreme weather and it's going to continue. So I'm curious what SDG&E is doing about battery storage, how much you're planning for that and why you haven't done more of that. And instead of focusing so much on notifying your customers, I feel that it's probably smarter to get going on what we know we need, and that would be, the battery storage. I'm just curious what you guys are doing on that.
Oh, that's a great question. We have a whole group called the Advanced Clean Technology Team. We have battery storage in Miramar. We just opened a facility called Top Gun. We have Brago Springs. We are also using battery storage to help rural communities and their key community facilities to stay in power during public safety power shutoffs. We have a large battery, I think it's 10 megawatts out in the Escondido industrial park called the Palomar Energy Center. And so, yes, we agree that the solution is going to be more storage. Absolutely.
Do you guys have a whole team working on that? Like a whole section of your company working on that?
Yes, they're the Advanced Clean Technology Group. They're also exploring hydrogen facilities as a way to create additional resources for the grid.
Okay. And then I just had one question on that last slide, and I think, I don't know how easy it is to get to that very last slide. Under the customer outreach, what do you mean by having the customers make better use of cleaner renewable energy sources?
Yes, in terms of, let me pause there. Joe, do you happen to have more information on that?
Yeah, I mean, what we can say is one of the challenges we have on the grid is our renewables drop off right around 5 o'clock in the evening, right as everybody's demand for electricity is going up, right? And so one of the ways that we're looking to mitigate that is through battery storage. And as Joe mentioned, we're bringing a lot of new battery storage facilities online. I think we procured about 260 megawatts of new battery storage that's coming online by 2022. But what really makes a difference when we have a grid event where the grid is stressed either because of extreme heat in the West, or recently we had fires cut through some transmission lines in Northern California that impacted the rest of the state. The way that the Kaiso and all of the utilities were able to avoid any rolling brownouts was by customers taking action. So when a flex alert was issued between the hours of 4 and 9 p.m., asking our customers to cut back on their energy usage by setting their thermostats higher or avoid using certain appliances until after 9 o'clock, taken in whole across the state, has prevented a number of instances where otherwise the Kaiso would have asked us to curtail energy.
But again, I feel like it's very focused on just telling customers to cut back. And I feel like maybe you guys should look a little more internally and, do more on your end. But thank you. Thank you for those answers.
Yeah, we're doing all of the above. So I appreciate that comment.
Yeah, I think it's going to take everybody. And I agree. It's a joint effort and all of us need to do our part. So thank you for that. Does anybody else have any questions? Board Member Drucker?
Yeah, so thank you, Joe and Joe, for doing this presentation. Very clear. Appreciate you coming forward and doing that. So no questions, but I thank you again for doing it.
Yeah, really appreciate taking that time out. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have no public comments. So we will move on to approval of the minutes, and I will entertain a motion for approving the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Member Drucker,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bob Patel,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar, and I will entertain a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Call for the vote.
Member Drucker,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bob Patel,
Yes.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, we have new business today, item number 2, and I will turn this over to the Chief Executive Officer for her reports. You're muted, Barb.
Thank you.
Oh,
And if I could ask our SDG&E guest if he doesn't mind turning off his camera at this point. Thank you.
We have it. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen for a presentation, and then after my presentation, we'll have our special regulatory attorney, Ty Tosda, will also have a presentation. And I have several things to share with the board, so I'm going to focus on some new items. And in the past, I have provided some information on our call center activity, and those items are in the staff report, but I'm not going to focus on those because we have several other items that are a higher priority that I wanted to focus on with my update. The first starting with an update with regards to Clean Energy Alliance expansion. The County of San Diego has been doing analysis of options with regards to bringing community choice energy to the unincorporated areas of the County of San Diego. And this will be before the board for consideration at its meeting next week, August 31st. And they will be considering whether to join Clean Energy Alliance or San Diego Community Power. CEA staff has been working closely with county staff over the past several months to assist in the analysis that they have brought forward to the Board of Supervisors. We've provided information and answered questions and done everything that we can to cooperate and assist with their decision making. Staff will be attending the Board of Supervisors meeting in person and plan to make a presentation, not a presentation, but speak at that meeting on behalf of Clean Energy Alliance. The findings of staff, I'm going to go through some of the analysis that they did and findings that they have presented to the board. They present an analysis on how the two JPAs meet the county's adopted guiding principles, and then other items, which I'm going to summarize over the next few slides. So the county has 6 guiding principles, and we were both Clean Energy Alliance and SDCP were determined to be substantially equal with regards to meeting the guiding principles. Areas where we differed, the first one was in guiding principle 3, which is achieving 100% renewable electricity by 2030 and encouraging within county build out of renewable energy, battery storage, and energy efficiency programs, and prioritizing category 1 renewable energy. County staff concluded that SDCP best complied with this guiding principle. And the reason they gave that they offered is that while both JPAs offer 100% renewable option now with a goal of achieving 100% by 2035, that SDCP has currently contracted 350 megawatts of local renewables plus 220 megawatts of batteries, which are all category 1. And they indicate that CEA allows category 2 renewables without limitation. I do want to point out, and I will point out when I speak at the county board, is that all of our long-term renewable energy all of our renewable energy contracts that we have in place are all category 1. And while our JPA does allow for category 1, we have set a priority, to allow for category 2, our priority is to focus on category 1. And we have all of our contracts for renewable are currently category 1. And I do want to make sure that the Board of Supervisors is aware of that. Guiding Principle 6, which is related to labor. The county staff identified Clean Energy Alliance as best complying with that guiding principle. And their reason for that conclusion is they state that while both JPAs include adequate industry standard protections against member liability, this has to do with protection of the general fund. Clean Energy Alliance includes the additional protection of requiring a member's governing body. So in their case, it would be the Board of Supervisors approval for amendments of liability language in the JPA and better defines continuing liability for withdrawing or voluntarily terminated members. So they concluded that Clean Energy Alliance's JPA was stronger with regards to protecting general fund protections. With regards to other issues that they evaluated, there were 13 items. 7 of those 13 items, they determined that Clean Energy Alliance and SDCP were substantially equal. For those items where they selected one or the other, I'm going to highlight for you over the next couple of slides. The first was in relation to cost to join. Our new member policy states that new members are to pay the upfront cost to prepare the data analysis and updated implementation plan, which is a not to exceed amount of $50,000, and that the new member would be eligible for repayment within 3 years of the CCA being implemented. SDCP has already charged the county $30,000 for data analysis, and they would for the county, they've already prepared data analysis and they'll charge the county $30,000 if they don't join SDCP. So should the county select CEA, it would cost the county $80,000. They would owe $30,000 to SDCP and then be responsible for paying the $50,000 upfront cost. If they join SDCP, they wouldn't owe the $30,000. So they concluded SDCP is better.
Barbara, can I stop you there?
Yes, I stumbled over that. I apologize.
Who authorized SDCP to do the analysis for $30,000?
I would have to go back and review. I don't, it may be that that's within the interim, the CEO's signature authority.
So
But
the county agreed to that already?
Well, the county would only owe it if they don't join. And I don't believe there is a contract between the county and SDCP. So I don't know what the mechanism would be for SDCP to then collect.
Strange.
With regards to the opt-out rate, I'm sorry, any other questions on that, the cost to join? Okay, moving on to current opt-out rate. CEA's opt-out rate is 7%. SDCP is currently at 2.34%. However, their current customer base are all of the municipal accounts of their member agencies, which of course wouldn't opt themselves out, and also commercial and industrial. So they have only launched a small fraction of their customer base. They have yet to launch their residential customers. CEA is fully launched. But based on the current statistics, the county staff concluded that SDCP is currently better. With regards to resource adequacy challenges, Clean Energy Alliance has none noted because we had no challenges with our resource adequacy procurements. However, SDCP did have difficulty locating sufficient local resource adequacy. It did require them to request a waiver from the PUC, which the PUC did grant for 2021. And they're anticipating needing a waiver for 2022. And the staff report, county staff report stated that they expect the waiver for 2022. They do note that there is a risk of fines and high prices that could impact customer rates with regards to resource adequacy challenges. They did find that CEA is currently better than SDCP with regards to resource adequacy. They further state that SDCP's large size makes finding sufficient RA more challenging, and that SDCP plans to seek long-term contracts that include RA to help address this issue. They then looked at the CCA's reserve status when the county customers start service. Based on our publicly available pro forma, it shows that we would have approximately 8 million in reserves at the time that the county would be rolling out. And we would need additional needs to finance the expansion into the county area. They noted that SDCP would have approximately 70 million in reserves, but also would need additional financing for the expansion. I think what they failed to note here is what percent of their budget the reserves represent. SDCP is a larger customer base, and while $70 million is certainly significantly larger than CEA's, I think it would be more just as relevant to indicate what percent of their budget was in reserves as well. And I plan to include that in my presentation to the County Board of Supervisors. They do make a comment that the reserves are commensurate with load size, although I think it would have been good to include that with the dollar amount. They further state that CEA will need more additional financing and have less cash reserves than SDCP. And based on that, they conclude that SDCP is better. With regards to lobbying ability, they indicate that CEA is currently a CalCCA member and has lobbying firms under contract. And they're referring to our contracts with Keys and Fox with regards to the work they do for us with San Diego Gas and Electric's rate proceedings. And those contracts are in partnership with SDCP. So they indicate that SDCP also is a CalCCA member. They do have one full-time legislative and regulatory affairs staff and has lobbying firms under contract. That's the same contracts that CEA has. Staff comments include that larger CCAs possibly have more resources, including staff, to support lobbying efforts. And so their conclusion is that we are substantially equal, but then add that SDCP, and then they say SDCP is better. They also looked at JPA voting. For CEA, our JPA has one member, one vote. SDCP has one member, one vote, unless a special voting clause is enacted. Under comments, SDCP the weighted vote allows override of normal vote with 2/3 based on load profile, and that San Diego is capped at 49%. They conclude that it's not clear which option is better because a county can be overruled in either case just by a majority vote. I'm sorry, I didn't delete out the last item is future programs. They looked at what our JPA states with regards to programming. And for programs, our JPA states that programs will be funded and developed to align with members' load profile. So those members with a larger share of the load would receive a larger percentage of programming funds commensurate with the load. SDCP language just indicates that any programs would be approved by the JPA board. As the staff comments that with SDCP, the county may not achieve program benefit that's commensurate with their load profile. And as a result, CEA is better with regards to future programs. And we've spoken about the other last two items. So the overall staff conclusion is that both CEA and SDCP appear to comply well with the guiding principles, be well organized and in good financial standing. That with CEA, the county would be the largest member in a small group, but that the county could be outvoted by the other members. They also note that additional financing would be required, although it's not expected to be an issue, and that the county may have more control over ensuring future energy programs meet unincorporated customer needs. Staff conclusion with regards to SDCP is that the county would be the second largest member in the second largest CCE program in the state. And that the county could be outvoted by the city of San Diego in a weighted vote clause. They also note, excuse me, SDCP is a quickly maturing CCE with 12 permanent staff already in place, that they are already securing long-term local renewables and storage, and that they will have significant cash reserves in place when the county is projected to launch. So the county staff recommendation to the board is to select either CEA or SDCP to join for a 2023 CCE launch. So staff does not recommend one CCE over the other. And I'm going to stop here to see what questions you may have before we go on to another topic, if you'd like to ask questions at this point.
Oh, I'm just curious why there was no discussion of how much the cost of their staff is when they haven't even fully launched yet. In other words, in comparison to ours, that didn't seem to make the cut. Right.
They do make a comment that in the staff report that their overhead is a higher percentage than ours, but they also note that they have significantly more revenue and are going to be launching their residential customers coming up in early 2022.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Board Member Drucker?
Yes, so you highlighted the reserves. What is our percentage reserves versus SDCP's percentage reserves?
So they were looking at what it would be in 2023. And one moment, I will need to stop sharing and pull up a document to take a look at so that I can tell you. We would be at a 16% reserve, which would exceed our goal of, at that point, being at a minimum 15%.
What is, do we know what SDCP's reserve percentage is?
I don't. I have not seen their pro forma forecast that goes out to 2023 to be able to know what that 70 million represents in terms of their revenue.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you for that. And I really appreciate all the hard work you've put into this endeavor. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We are ready. Oh.
Board Member Bat Patel, you had a question?
I do, yeah, thank you. So I know that we've been obviously in touch with folks at the county. This is maybe more of a question for my colleagues, and this is since this is really the only time that we all can chat about who we've had the opportunity to talk to. And I know that there is a decision, obviously, like we discussed today, being made sometime next week. And so I was just curious to hear from the two of you if you've had the opportunity to maybe dialogue with the board, and if there's anyone else we need to outreach to. I have reached out to them again to talk to them again before next week, so I just wanted to see if you all are doing the same.
I've tried to reach out to Tara Lawson-Reamer's staff, and they've not chatted with me.
Okay.
Well, that's disappointing. Yeah, I have had meetings with everyone except for Jim Desmond. I've made the offer, but he hasn't gotten back to me. But I do think Tara Lawson-Reamer would be our very, very important person to talk to. So if any of you guys had the time, I think she would be the one, her and her staff.
I did reach out to them as well. I'm waiting to hear back also, Dave. So, or board member Drucker, I'm also waiting to hear back. So I'm hoping that I'll get a response as well. So I'll try a couple others that I know are on her staff to see if I can get a hold of her. And then I actually did have an opportunity to speak to Supervisor Desmond. So I have had the opportunity to speak to him, and then I'm waiting to schedule some time with the others as well.
Yeah, and actually, I believe Nathan Fletcher, we reached out one more time to see if he would like to meet, and he's didn't have any questions. So, okay, yeah, good effort by everyone, and I think we all need to just keep positive thoughts, but also, you know, we are so lucky to be already launched and going and successful. So we'll be good. And there's some other, you know, San Clemente, there's some other cities out there that would be probably a really good fit as well. So there's other opportunities out there, but
yeah, and I'm sure Barb will mention something about San Clemente later. So yeah.
It's next. If you're ready to move on, it's next. Yes. So since we last met, we did hear from the city of San Clemente. They reached out and requested a meeting. They are currently looking at options with regards to bringing community choice energy to their community. And Vice Chair Bob Patel and myself had an opportunity to meet with staff and a council person. The meeting went very well, and they were very enthused and liked what they heard about Clean Energy Alliance. Then that same week, their city council heard a presentation from staff with regards to community choice energy. And they spoke about Clean Energy Alliance being one of the options. And again, it was discussed very favorably that it was an option that they generally thought was a very good option for San Clemente based on geographically where we are. The fact that we are in SDG&E territory. The other JPA that they may consider would be Orange County Power Authority, but they're out of Southern California Edison territory. So that does create some complexities with regards to rolling out or managing and administering a CCA program that spans 2 IOU territories. The direction from the San Clemente Council was to hire a consultant that will analyze the options before them and bring it back to the City Council for consideration. So they would be looking at Clean Energy Alliance as well as Orange County Power Authority or any other option that may be on the table for them. But again, in their discussions at the council meeting, Clean Energy Alliance was discussed as a very top potential for them, a good fit. So that takes us to CEA programs. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm getting messages that my internet is unstable. If I start breaking up, if someone could wave a hand and I'll my camera, that usually helps.
Before we leave San Clemente, my assumption is the earliest that they could join us would be 2024, correct?
They could join us before that. However, the soonest they could be rolled out would be 2024. That is correct. So, for example, the county, they would not be rolling out until 2023, but they would be looking at joining the CCA in 21. So you do join the JPA, well in advance of the implementation or launch of the CCA. But be looking at a 2022 launch or 2024, sorry. It's hard to even think about. It's so far in advance. There are a couple of programs that I've been looking at. We're currently just launched. We don't have money set aside or identified for programming. So I've been looking at, are there ways that we can bring programs to our customers that don't cost CEA or the customer any money. And these actually tie in very well with the presentation we just heard from SDG&E, because they do deal with reliability and responding to flex alerts. So one potential program, which would be for residential customers that we're looking at, is a partnership with Connect. And Connect is a company that is working to reduce or eliminate blackout in California. And they offer smart thermostats or smart plugs, alternatively smart plugs, to residents in order to assist them with responding to flex alerts. But, being able to adjust from their smartphone or a smart device their thermostats to respond to a request to increase to 78 degrees or higher their thermostats. Customers that enroll in our partnership would be, we would assist with marketing and help the customers with understanding that Connect is a reliable company, because they do have to agree to allow SDG&E to provide them with their usage data, which sometimes customers are reluctant to do so. Customers who enroll in the Connect program would receive rewards for reducing or reacting positively to requests to reduce energy usage during peak demand times. And then they can use those rewards to get prizes or buy things with. Again, the goal of the program is to reduce energy demand during peak periods and reduce risk of blackouts. The benefit to CEA is that if we can get customers to reduce usage at peak demand, that can reduce our risk of unanticipated high energy costs. When we're in a flex alert time and when usage is going up and supply is going down, that price of energy goes up. And to the extent that there are conditions where customers, for example, if we have higher than normal weather and we have customers with air conditioners that are now using their air conditioners when they don't normally, we wouldn't have necessarily anticipated that usage and maybe then subject to the risk of having to buy energy at those high prices. So to the extent that customers adjust their usage, that reduces our risk of higher than anticipated energy costs. We haven't finalized any contracts with Connect. We're still in that process, but it is something that we're looking very closely at that we think could be a program of benefit to residential customers. Another program that we're looking at is something that you were asking about, Chair Becker, which is battery storage. We came across a program that another CCA group is looking at, was issuing a request for proposals from companies who we would partner with that would install solar and battery storage facilities on a large commercial or municipal property. The solar battery storage facility would be, CEA would own it, and then we would sell the energy, the renewable energy, to the customer at a reduced rate. And they would get the benefit of the solar energy and the lower rate without the cost of constructing the solar and putting in the battery system. We would get the benefit of the renewable energy, we could claim that, but also the battery storage and being able to fill that battery up with energy from during the day. And then we could then dispatch that energy in the evenings during peak demands and react to flex alerts. The results of the RFP from the CCA group that I came across this from, they did have developers willing to offer the programs, and at varying degrees of no cost or low cost. So it is something that's possible. And so we want to go out there and check out the market and see if it's something that we can bring to our community. The benefit to CEA would, again, reducing peak demand, and reducing peak demand reduces our resource adequacy requirement, which then translates into reduced costs. Also, having the benefits of the battery storage then would also help to reduce the risk of having peak usage at high cost times. So with that, we will be issuing an RFP on September 1st with responses due October 1st, and anticipate bringing the results of that solicitation to the board at our October 28th meeting. So I will.
Just one question there. Did those battery storage places have to be within our 3 cities, somewhere within our 3 cities?
Yes,
Okay.
this program would have to be within our community, connected to one of our customers.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds very good.
Yeah. If there's no other questions on that, I will stop sharing and turn it over to Ty for his regulatory report.
Thank you, Ms. Boswell. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. One moment. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Outstanding. Well, good afternoon, board members, staff. I have 4 items to report today. I wanted to start it off with a subject that I think has been touched upon in various ways at the meeting so far, but Governor Newsom issued an executive order around emergency reliability at the end of last month, proclaiming a state of emergency due to the effects of climate change. I've linked this executive order in the board materials. It's worth a read. It's not particularly long, but it is worth a read. It draws a very strong connection between the effects of climate change, heat, fire, and so forth, and our electricity generation and delivery system. And so, for example, the executive order recognizes that hydropower from Oregon is down 4,000 megawatts due to drought conditions, and we're seeing, falling hydro generation numbers across the state. And in addition to that, some of these fires that we've had, the Dixie Fire in particular, have threatened the transmission infrastructure. And so the executive order is certainly worth taking a read through. It instructs the California Public Utilities Commission to take action to increase the clean energy supply and reduce demand. And so the commission is taking action in an emergency reliability proceeding. And the things they're looking at include reducing the time to bring projects online, making changes to resource adequacy and other procurement programs, and then looking into demand response, which is a generic term that's used to describe the types of customer actions that the gentleman from SDG&E were talking about, and that Ms. Boswell was talking about earlier in terms of the Connect proposals. So we are tracking this proceeding, and we will see how it develops. Moving along, I did want to, hopefully without going into too much detail, though I'm happy to, I did want to apprise the board of some potential changes to the financial security requirements rules that are in place. FSRs are a form of collateral similar to a bond that protect the utility against mass involuntary return of CCA customers to the utility. Has 2 components: administrative costs and procurement costs. And you may remember that the board had to take action to submit a letter of credit to satisfy this requirement previously. The bankruptcy and the failure of Western Community Energy has triggered the first mass involuntary return of CCA customers from Western back to Southern California Edison, and Southern California Edison is now seeking, in addition to their claims in the bankruptcy proceeding, are now seeking 14.7 million in addition from Western for those customer reentry fees under this framework. Certainly the utilities and the commission have taken note and are reevaluating some of the inputs and the methods that are used to determine this amount. Although we're not exactly sure how they're going to go about doing that. They haven't made any sort of announcement, but we are starting to see changes in the compliance materials. SDG&E made recent changes to its inputs that we're looking at. Although for present purposes, the CEA's FSR remains at the minimum amount. So just wanted to give you all a heads up that there may be some changes coming here, and that we'll be certainly reporting back about them and getting involved to the extent that's necessary.
Before you leave that, I just want to make the comment that I find it, I don't know what the proper word is, but SCE was collecting exit fees from these customers for energy that was stranded and that they now no longer were selling, but were still in their portfolio. And that they have this energy, and yet now they're saying they need an additional 14.7 in reentry fees. Why? There seems to be a disconnect between they have these energy contracts that they don't have customers for. They're collecting an exit fee, and now the customers come back. What happened to that energy? Why is it not now available for those customers? So it's just something to point out that there seems to be a disconnect there between those two.
I couldn't agree more, Ms. Boswell, and I think that's a good point to bring up. For my part, I would say that given what you stated, that and in addition to a couple of additional facts, that I think Edison has taken a very aggressive position in requesting this amount from Western. But nevertheless, I think they are getting to some extent a receptive ear at the commission. So we need to, watch out for any changes that occur related to this. In addition, we are also engaged in some discussions with SDG&E around customer bill debt. I've briefed the board previously on various low-income customer and customer protections that have been enacted over the past year or so by the Public Utilities Commission previously. One of the issues that we're facing is that some of our customers are going to be on those programs, and we need to there's some issues that need to be figured out around partial payments, potentially customers enrolling with arrearages, billing transparency, and then some distribution of federal and state funding, which should help to alleviate some of that debt. I am happy to report that your CEO has been very much on the front lines of this discussion and asking very good questions and very engaged. And so we continue to have those discussions with SDG&E, and we continue to monitor this proceeding to see what the outcome is. I do think we are making some progress without going into details about those discussions, but also wanted to make you aware that they were going on. Lastly, I just wanted to brief you all that the major issue that we had faced in the past around SDG&E's rate setting process, called the ERA forecast proceeding, had to do with their sales forecasts. Their projected sales did not take into account departing load, which resulted in their rates looking very, very low. And so you may remember last year, at the end of last year, we were able to get the commission to make a change, a last minute change. And we are confronting, unfortunately, the same issue this year. SDG&E is, for some reason, is very wedded to the idea of pursuing a separate sales forecast proceeding. Fortunately, we were able to get the judge to include this item in an amended scoping order for the ERA forecast proceeding this year. So that's certainly good news. You have new testimony that indicates that SDG&E will be providing an updated sales forecast in the ERA proceeding. However, we just learned that SDG&E is still trying to get to use their sales forecast from this separate proceeding, which may not be decided in time for the rates to be adopted. So we continue to monitor this situation and push back against any kind of sales forecast that doesn't include a proper departing load forecast. So that's all that I had for my report, and happy to take questions about these items or other items.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always interesting. All right, seeing no questions, we will move on to item number 3, approve entering into a long-term renewable energy agreement with Powerx. and turn this back to you, CEO.
Unmute. Okay, thank you
There you
very much. So our last item for board consideration is consideration of approval of a long-term renewable energy agreement with Powerx. It's for portfolio category 1, renewable energy, and authorize interim CEO to execute all documents for an amount not to exceed $8,554,000 for the delivery term to begin October 1st, 2021 and run through September 30th, 2030. And the contract is in a form substantially as was attached to the staff report and subject special transactions attorney approval. We do have under contract an attorney that specializes in negotiating these types of energy agreements, and this agreement reflects his work at this contract. You may recall that Senate Bill 350, also known as the Clean Energy and Pollution Reduction Act of 2015, requires that entities such as Clean Energy Alliance to enter into long-term renewable agreements, which are defined as agreements of 10 years or longer, and that 65% of the minimum state required renewable energy must be in contracts of 10 years or longer. So currently the state minimum, I think, is around 35%, growing to 39%. And 65% of that amount must be from contracts that are 10 years or longer. This agreement provides just a portion of that requirement, and it is an existing wind project so that we can begin receiving the benefit of that energy starting in October 1st, 2021. Even with this contract, we have additional long-term renewable energy needs. We have been undergoing negotiations with other suppliers. Specifically, we've been working with SDG&E, I think for close to a year now, trying to come to an agreement with regards to procuring some of now their surplus long-term renewable energy and bring that into our portfolio. The benefit of doing that is that those contracts are a component of the exit fee. And if we remove those from that portfolio, our exit fees should reflect a reduction in those costs. That will provide a significant portion of our portfolio. And once we're completed with that, and we were hoping to have that by this meeting, but we didn't quite get to the finish line with them. And so if we are to reach an agreement before our next meeting, I will reach out to see if we can schedule a special meeting because that contract does need to go before the PUC, and we want to get it before the PUC as early as possible. However, this contract is with Powerx, and it is because we need renewable energy starting in 2021. This was a perfect fit for our portfolio needs. And then any remaining need we have over and above these contracts, we will do a new solicitation seeking new projects and with a preference for projects to be built within the SDG&E territory as our policy state. So that does conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions. No questions on that. All right, I would entertain a motion to move that item forward.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Member Drucker,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patel,
Aye.
Chair Becker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. All right. Do any board members have any requests for a future agenda item? I have something if you, and I'm not quite sure how we would do this, and I'll turn to our general counsel for this, but I've been noticing that our chief executive officer has the word interim before her title, and I'm wondering what we can do to remove that, since we have we have already, I know that it's in your contract as interim as well. So I think that what we'd have to do is amend her contract. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Chair
And would we
Becker
have-
also would have to also amend the conflict code. That also shows the title as interim CEO.
Okay, and
Very
how,
easy to do. So both could be just done by actions at the next meeting if that was the direction of the board.
okay, do I have any support to put that on the agenda for the next meeting? I'm seeing nods of heads. Okay, great. Would that be something that you could do? Interim chief executive, oh, okay, whoever needs to figure that out, I would appreciate that. I also would like to just note on our agenda that it says that our next meeting is September 30th, 2021 at 2 p.m. It's instead of being hosted by Solana Beach again, that will be hosted virtually by Carlsbad. So that was a little correction I needed to make. And thank you all for attending this meeting, and we will adjourn and see you in September.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good month.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,